Hello, we're here at the Art Hole Studio today, and we are going to paint something really different. It's kind of a abstract like scene with a guitar kind of floating in the space. But I'm here with Madison, our producer.
Hey
Say
there.
hello. And besides answering any questions you may type in or relaying them to me, she'll be controlling the camera and making sure the sound is reasonable as much as we can. Anyway, hopefully it's better than last time we tried to pump up the sound a little bit. So let us know if there's any issues. Today, I'm going to be using 3 different size brushes, all flat brushes. I have a big one, and this is going to be for the background. Just use the biggest one that you have. I mean, nothing too huge, of course. We don't need a
Ginormous,
house painting brush or anything.
I mean, if you want to try painting with a house brush, you can do you.
Yeah, I don't have enough paint for it, but anyway, I'll be using a medium-sized flat brush and kind of a small flat brush. It's not tiny, but this will help me get some really, really thin lines here and there. And for my colors, let's move to the palette. I'm going to be using quite a bit of black. Usually I take it easy on black at first, but we're going to be using a lot in our background. We kind of want a spacey look, not necessarily outer space, but just something that kind of reminds you of that. So we're going to be doing a lot of black and purple and blue to get that. So I also want a lot of blue to make some purple and to use in the background, and some red. Again, red goes a long ways, so we'll start out with just a little bit and we can always add some more. Definitely need some white. We need yellow. So basically what we have here are primary colors and black and white. With those 3 colors, we can make anything we want. So with those 3 colors plus black and white, we can make anything we want. So red, blue, yellow, black and white. It looks like we're set. First thing I'm going to do is stick on the palette here. I'm going to make us a little bit of purple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add red to blue instead of starting out with equal amounts, because I know it's going to take more blue than red to get the purple that I want. So I'm going to take some of my blue, yank some red out. Start with a little bit and I can add more. There, we're getting a nice dark purple here. And we haven't put in too much red. If I would have put in too much red, I would have ended up with a big, gigantic pile of purple that would need a whole lot of blue to adjust. I would have ended up with way too much paint. Again, I don't have to blend it thoroughly, just as long as it starts to turn purple. I still see some red and some blue in there, but that's fine. It'll blend when we smear it on the canvas. All right. All right, so I'm gonna wash this brush. Let me just put it in the water for now and set it off to the side. I'm gonna go to my big, huge background brush. So I'm gonna get a large amount of black, and then we're gonna go to the canvas, and I'm gonna start in this top left corner and start making smooth strokes that go all the way across at a diagonal. And I try to go over the edge a little bit. Make sure that when you're looking straight at the canvas, you don't see any white poking out around around the painting, because that'll be much better presentation. Presentation is very important, huh, Madison?
It is.
Never know when you might come up with a really good painting and decide to stick it in a show or something, and then if you have to go back and clean up your edges and all that, that's always a pain. So just start with a corner of black like that, and then I'm going to transition into the purple. So
Gotta get it a little purpley.
yeah, so our air conditioner came on. Hopefully there wasn't a big yeah, hopefully the sound is still okay. So I'm going to get a bunch of purple and just continue on where I left with the black. So I'm overlapping a little bit.
Gotta make sure it blends.
Is that coming through as purple on the camera or more blue? It's looking blue to me.
Yeah, it's
and
looking a little blue.
I can add some red to it.
Might have to.
Yeah. Let's see. Starting to turn more purple now. It's just blending more. But it's sliding on nice and smoothly because it's a lot of wet paint on top of wet paint.
I can smell it.
Can you?
Yeah, I couldn't smell it last time, but I can smell it now.
Well,
Allergies were biting my butt last week, though.
feeling better now?
I do, just a little bit. I can actually smell some things.
Yeah. Well, it was like we said, like 90 degrees last week or something. It's much more reasonable temperature now. I think it's in the 80s. I'm going to add some red, just a little bit right on top of it. A bit more warmth in our purple. There we go. It's okay if it turns a little red too. This is just kind of an abstract.
It's okay.
So,
Color is okay.
Definitely. Now I do want my $4,000 I wish I had $4,000 to stand out, but I want my foreground to stand out. So I am going to try to keep it somewhat dull in the background. It can be streaky too. I'm using a smooth transition, but it's okay if it transitions more quickly. I'm going to get some of this darkness out of my brush because I'm going to add some blue directly to this kind of plum type purple there. And I don't want black mixing in with it. So I'm going to squish my brush in the water and I'm going to pull the paint out. And then I'm going to grab a big clump of blue.
Azul.
Azul. All right. And I'm going to put it right on top of that plum color and also right on top of the canvas. It's kind of little on both.
Try not to knock your canvas over.
I'll try.
Didn't you about do that last week too?
I think so.
One day you're going to drop the painting right on your lap. And we're all going to
It
laugh
wouldn't
at
be
you.
the first time.
We're all going to laugh at you.
That's okay. I'm used to it.
See, I'm a clown. You're supposed to laugh.
We have fun doing this. Even if the painting falls in our lap. So now it's transitioned from the plum into the blue. And you can't really tell exactly where it does. So it's not like stripes. But long. Now I'm having to go very long strokes because I'm going from corner to corner across this canvas. And I don't want to stop because when I stop, I leave a little mark.
It's long, but spelled with 3 G's.
Now, since this one was a little too red, this one's a little too blue, I might add just a little bit of red on top of that blue. Oh, there we go.
Ooh.
Like all those different colors. Bunch of different colors, but they're not that vivid.
I need to bring in a mascot, because Kelly has a mascot for
Yeah.
when she does it. She's got the horse. I think I have a snake somewhere.
A snake?
Maybe a snake can be my mascot.
That sounds appropriate.
I have a snake somewhere. His name's William.
Yeah. Just no live chickens, please.
Why do
Actually-
you say that like that is an issue you've had before? We're getting chicken soon. I can just bring in the chicken.
All right. So I'm going to go back to my purple color that I had mixed up now. You can do this any combination that you want. I just like to use this blue and purple and black to kind of, like I say, make a floaty type, spacey type background. Kind of remind you of space a little, or
A little bit, yeah.
something like that.
It tells me that it's nap time.
Nap time.
Yeah, bedtime for Bonzo.
I'm gonna lower this, and hopefully that'll keep the canvas on my easel as I get this lower part. All right, I really kind of want to start getting lighter down towards this corner, but not too light. I'm gonna add in a little bit of white to that purple.
Muy
And can we
pequeño.
go to the palette?
Yes, we can.
And see, when I mix that in, I'm making a. You might actually consider that more what you think in your head as purple might have a little bit of white in it. Kind of a pastel type purple. Anyway, I'm still.
Lavender.
Yeah, lavender. And I'm still leaving some of my dark, my unmixed red and blue in there. So we can, when I dip into my paint, I'll end up getting dark streaks. All right, and we'll go back to the canvas and lay the rest of this on. See how that's mixing in? And as we carry down to the bottom right-hand corner, I might just get lighter and lighter. It might get darker for a second and then lighter again.
Starting to look good.
No, thank you.
And think, this is just the background.
Yeah, we still have our fun stuff to
Yeah.
put in. All right, let's go with straight up white. And then we can add some color on top of it. I just want a wet canvas to work with. It's going to make the paint go on nicely. So I've ended up.
Get it just a little wet.
What's that? Yeah. Once it starts sliding, it slides. But then, if you wait too long, it starts getting sticky, and the paintbrush starts to pull it off.
Which is not fun.
Yeah. But let's put just a little bit of blue right on top of that white. There we go. I think that's about good for our background. I might slip a little bit of red right in there. What do you think?
I think we could do with a little bit of red.
Just a tiny bit.
Just to blend in with that purple a bit more.
So that's probably a little bit too much. I'm going to start with it and kind of gauge. Yeah, see, that's all I want. So I can just wipe it off rather than putting it on and then thinking to myself, well, why did I put that much on? I knew how much was on my brush, didn't I? This is one of the few things that we can be in total control of, is the paint going on our canvas. And it's awesome. All right.
I think that looks really good.
Well, thank you. Make sure I down here, I had a little spot showing. And I kind of like the way that corner gets really dark all of a sudden there. Let's see if I can expand on that. Maybe a little bit more.
I love the look.
Kind of vignetting it.
They did not expect it until they received it.
There we go. All right, so I'm going to get this paintbrush washed up, and then we're going to go on to our next step. So if you are following along, go ahead and make sure your complete canvas is covered. And before we move on to the next step, if it'll be really hard to put your background in after we start putting our fun stuff in front. So get that covered up, and I'm going to wash my brushes out.
And we're going to go to the palette.
Yeah, actually, I think I want to kind of explain what we're doing here. So we want this, I want this to be musical in nature. So I mean, I want it to be abstract in a way, but I want it to speak about music today for some reason. I got music on my mind. So I'm going to put a guitar floating in here, and I'm going to put musical notes. And the guitar can be kind of abstract. It doesn't have to look realistic. As long as people get the idea of the expression, that's all I'm worried about.
The guitar floats through the void.
Right. So hopefully everybody has their background on. And it's starting to dry just a little bit. It's not completely dry. But I think it's dry enough. As long as it's not sopping wet, we can move on to the next step. So I guess, yeah, let's go to the palette now.
Whoop.
And I'm going to be drawing with my paintbrush here. So I got my medium-sized flat brush. I could be using my small one if I want, but this will work. I'm going to get just a tiny bit of white. I'm going to get it on the tip, and then I'm going to go back on the palette and kind of flatten it, wipe a lot of it off that I got on there. And you'll see I have a nice kind of a blade of white paint. So I'm going to start my guitar. I like to break things down a lot of times into simple shapes. And so I'm going to break this guitar down into two circles, and then the neck coming off. And I don't want it straight across. I'm going to tilt it I'm going to angle it just a little bit. You can put yours in however you would like. But I'm going to start off with a circle. Remember, start your circles smaller than you want them. Just in case they don't come out round, then when you go back and get it round, it'll end up the right size if you start it out smaller.
And you don't end up with a ginormous guitar when you didn't want a ginormous guitar.
Right. We also don't want a tiny one, of course, but
Maybe someone wants a tiny guitar.
maybe.
Maybe it's just a tiny guitar floating through the endless void.
That'd be like a ukulele, right? All right. See, I'm just going to go back and make this a little bit bigger. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Just try to get it close. Letting the flat part of the brush roll around in a circle as I go around. Perfect coverage isn't necessary. We just want to kind of block it out with this white paint. We can go back with some wood type color. There we go. All right. Now, same way I got white paint and wipe it off. I'm going to put a smaller circle on top of it, headed off at an angle. So if I think that here's the middle, and then here's the middle of our smaller circle. Just make sure it's a little bit smaller than your first circle. If it ends up the same size, go back and make your first circle bigger.
Even guitars do not exist.
All right. So there's a guitar broken down into two circles, and all we have to do from here, this important step, is to connect our circles with two little curves. So the curves in towards the circles, kind of like that. Did I explain that right?
I think so.
So we connected the top, let's connect the bottom.
You're just filling in that little gap between them.
Yeah.
But not all the way in, because then they're a square. They're not circular.
Right, we want them to keep that roundness. And we can make little adjustments afterwards.
Our guitar is very curvy. They have big hips.
Yes. We're doing an acoustic guitar here. So we don't need the cutaways up towards the neck. All right, so there is our guitar shape. And we just want to, like I said, block it in with white. And then we're going to put a neck on our guitar. Sounds like a good idea?
Everything needs a neck.
Everything?
I think everything needs a neck.
Yeah.
Even jars have necks.
Can you imagine a fish with a neck?
They have necks. They just don't have, like, their necks are like the same size of their bodies.
So
like
you can't
some
really
people
see.
you'll see in Walmart.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna add the neck on. So I'm thinking I want to find the middle of this guitar and follow through. So I can kind of, is that showing up on the, can you even see on that small screen, Madison, if that little line?
You can really see that little line on the screen.
So basically I just split this into two, going along the same curve. And I'm going to continue up with that line. And I'm going to do it slowly in pieces. Swipe, swipe, swipe. And then I'm going to come back and get the thickness right. So it's thicker towards the guitar body, and it gets thinner towards the top where the tuning keys are. There. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight. I know mine's not. Just get the idea. We can always come back and do some detailing. Come back from this angle with the brush and get my edge real nice. There we go. Now, I didn't even put the head of the guitar on yet. So let's go ahead and do that. It's a little bit wider than the neck. And it's kind of a square shape, a rectangle shape that might be rounded at the top, something like that. That's good enough for us right now. And there's our guitar. So let's let that white paint dry for a little while. Make sure it's filled in good. And we'll just leave that to dry and go on to a different element. So I want to add some musical notes into my guitar, into my painting. And I want them, I think if I put a staff line that holds the musical notes, you know, the 5 stripes and the staff line, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. If we have that flowing through the painting, it might help to tie it together a little bit. But I want to give it some depth. So I'm going to imagine this staff line is way off in the distance over here and then comes towards us. Or it could be way off in the distance here and comes towards us here. It doesn't, let's see. I'm going to try off in the distance over here towards this dark left-hand corner. Okay.
That's what I think we should do.
So,
In contrast with the fact that, like, because of the natural shape of the guitar, it's like bigger towards the bottom anyway. So we can start the line smaller towards the bottom and have it come bigger at the narrow end of the guitar.
that, yeah, contrast with, I like that. It's a good idea. I'm going to start with just one line. And again, I'm going to do this in little pieces. I'm not going to try to just do the whole line at once. If you can, more power to you.
If you can, you are stronger than me.
And it doesn't even necessarily have to be connected everywhere. I'm going to make it kind of snaky, but not too snaky. As it goes on, it's going to get less snaky. The curves are going to be less exaggerated. So just one gentle curve to finish it off here. Okay, so now to make it look like it's coming towards us, what do we do?
To make it look bigger.
Yes, so if it's far away down here and close here, the lines are going to be further apart here because it's going to appear bigger and closer together here. You could also make the line thicker as we go along. For right now, I'm just going to try to get my 5 lines in and make them spaced apart as they go on. So as I move along, it's following this other line, but it's slowly spreading apart from it. We don't want to go too much because we don't want to take up our whole painting with these staff lines. So just it barely, slowly gets more spread as we go along. There, I don't want to spread any more than that. That's 2 lines. Staff has 5 lines. Slowly, slowly, slowly spreading apart. It doesn't have to be perfect either. There we go. And it might come back together a little bit as it goes. So here's the closest part to us. It goes to the distance, goes into the distance.
Have you ever covered the tip of a mechanical pencil with paint to do that on a canvas? Because I did that once. I didn't have a tiny enough brush and I was having a hard time with the flat brush. So I took a mechanical pencil that didn't have any lead in it and put paint on the tip of it and use that to sketch it on there.
You have to be resourceful. It's really just about how can you get the paint on the canvas. So whatever works. I'd just be careful of scratching the canvas, of course.
Yeah, that's why I made sure I took one that didn't have lead in it.
All right.
It had a flatter end.
Well, I've ended up using a tiny headed paintbrush, and the hairs were completely worn away. So I had to. Basically, I was painting with the metal tip at that point, just scooping up paint with a piece of metal, and it's just a way. Brush is just a way to transfer the paint from here to here.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
And figure out how to work it. There, it goes behind the guitar there, and where is it going to pop out? Maybe there. All right, that's 4. One more line. We'll be good.
Should we add that one under it?
I was wondering about that.
That way we don't take up too much more space behind it.
Yeah, it can be. It's a good idea, Madison. Let's add it underneath. There, and it goes off the canvas. Comes back on the canvas, spread apart. Keep it spread, and then it's going to go back together towards this right. And that gives us depth. Get a little more. We got, yes. So, I bet our guitar is drying. It's still a little tacky. So, we have a staff line. We have our background. We have our guitar shape. And I'm liking the way it's looking. How about you?
I'm liking it.
Kind of needs something up here.
That's what I was thinking.
First, I was thinking to add another staff line, but I have another painting that has, it's kind of similar, and on this edge, it has like a plant growing in. And it just kind of fills in the void. And I think I might do something like it, kind of like a vine type of thing. So I think I will do that. Let me go ahead and paint it on with white first, and then I'm going to add some green to it. So if we go to the palette and remember how to get our white paint on the brush and spread it really thin after it's on there. Then we'll go back to the canvas and let's see, a vine coming down from this top corner.
Is there any specific direction you're going with the vines, or are you just kind of winging it?
I'm kind of making it hang down.
Instead of like spreading out, you kind of like having it.
Yeah, well, it's spreading out a little. There. There's one. Tell you what, I'm going to do several of these, and they're going to get shorter as they go. I don't want them all parallel, else they're going to look like they're farmed or something. Like a row of trees. But they are going to get shorter and shorter. They're going to go different directions. There, maybe one more. I can get my canvas back on my easel now too. There we go. Maybe you can think of something else that you can put in your painting right there.
Maybe
or put in some
put
vines.
a bus or
A bus?
Hey, some people might want to put a bus.
The magic bus?
Maybe you want to do like one of those old like retro vans.
So let me get a little more white. I'm still drawing with the brush, so I want to wipe most of the white off when I get it on my brush. Let's put some nice little leaf shapes. Doing this in white so I can go back and paint it green, and the green will show up nicely on top of the white. So these leaf shapes don't have to be perfect yet. We'll define them a little bit better when we paint them green. All right, just a couple more leaves. I don't want it to be, I'm not painting a garden here today.
Or are you?
Not yet. I guess it depends on how far I keep going with these leaves. Now, the other painting that I was referring to had some little berries also on the vines. Those berries kind of resembled the notes on the staff line. So I might do some of that. Let's see. There we go. It doesn't really look like a leaf, but that's okay. It will. Let's put an overlapping leaf here. All right. And now our guitar is dry enough for us to go back to that. And then after that, our leaves will be dry enough to go back to that. So, you can always add in the leaves. As long as you got your background, you can do this step at a time. So if I move on and you're still working on something at this point, remember you can go back to it. So let's everyone move to the guitar at this point. And let's go to our palette if we can.
I got you.
All right. So I want kind of a tannish color, tannish brownish. So I'm going to use a lot of yellow. I'm going to use a bit of red, a nice chunk of white, and it's going to make a peach. Very bright peach.
Vibrant.
Yes. We're going to tone that down. So if we add blue to peach, we're going to get mud.
My favorite color.
Yes. Mud is Madison's favorite color. Remember that if you're buying her any apparel for Christmas or birthday.
It's a lie. I don't like mud.
Oh, okay.
I like the actual mud. I don't really like the color mud.
Oh. Yeah, I like actual mud.
I'm more of a red fan myself. Red or black.
All right, so we got a mud. You see our mud? And it's nice and pale. And it's got a lot of white in it. And that means I can add different things now to control the tinge of it. I'm going to get another big scoop of yellow. And there, I'm starting to get my tannish brown. That's looking good. I can add just a tiny bit of red to that to warm it up. And I'm not going to mix this all the way. I want all these different tones. So let's start painting. I'm just going to use what's left on my paintbrush to paint the guitar. And that way I'm not wasting any paint by washing off and then going back at it. So go back to the canvas. Ooh, look at that. And you see my different colors. Can you see the different colors on there, Madison? A little bit.
The screen is very small.
Yeah.
But if I look over at your canvas, I can.
Okay. Well, that's good. It's not all one solid color. The more I blend it, the more it's going to get into all one solid color. And I don't want it one solid color. I want to see some of that red, some of that mud, some of that yellow. And it's all going to kind of equal out to make something that we might consider to be wood. Be very careful around the edge. You might use a little bit smaller of a brush to do this than I am. You might use a larger brush.
He's actually using different brush sizes this time.
Yes.
And he's still ending up sticking with the medium most of the time.
Yeah.
He's trying though. He's evolving, slowly but surely.
Well, I did use the large one to lay down my background.
You did?
That was just for speed, really. It could be done
No.
with this little one. What's that?
I didn't think about it and I just rubbed the eyeliner off my eye.
Uh-oh.
Now I have green eyeliner all over my hand.
Maybe you could do a green painting with green eyeliner.
I painted a little smiley face on my jeans.
There you go.
It wasn't even supposed to be green eyeliner this morning. I went to grab my blue one and grabbed my green one instead and didn't realize till after I'd already done it.
There, we got that filled in. I really don't want any of this white left. I'm going to go back and make sure I cover up all my white that I laid in originally to block it in.
Is it looking woody over there?
It's starting to. In fact, I blended it a little more than I wanted to while I was filling that in. So I'm just going to take some of these separate colors that we made that with and add them in separately in a way that kind of represents wood grain. So let's add in a little red. Just going to add some streaks and stripes and stuff. And I don't want to blend it too much. It's going to look a little messy at first. Let me just wipe all that paint off the brush. I'm going to add in a little yellow in the same manner. And then I might get some black in there for some shadows.
I did it again. I keep rubbing my eyeball.
Oh, don't rub your eyeball.
My eye itches. It's okay. I'm too far gone.
All right. So it's looking pretty good. I am going to add a little black in for shadows in the wood grain. Don't you think?
I think so.
There we go. Now the sound hole in the guitar is more towards the front of the guitar than the back. So we're going to put our sound hole in right about there. And remember, tell you what, I'm going to go to the smaller brush. Remember, when we're making circles, we start smaller than we want our circle. And then we accidentally make it bigger. And it comes out perfect. So let's put this in. We might have to come back and put a second coat on. Definitely going to have to put a second coat on. There we go. That's about the right size, I think. It could be a little bit bigger.
Just a teeny bit.
After this dries, the black will go right on there, and it'll look like a nice black sound hole. So I don't want to put any strings on until I get that hole black, because it'll be hard to paint the hole black behind the strings. And then if I try to patch in strings, they're not going to look right. So let's take some of this. Can we go back to the palette? And
Yep.
we're going to find some of that brown color we had. And we're going to add a lot of red. We really want this one to be very warm. This is going to be for the neck of our guitar, which is typically a different kind of wood than the body of the guitar. So we want to kind of point that out. And we're just going to add in a little bit more red. All right, we'll go back to the guitar. There, it really is coming out red. Or like a muddy red, but that's fine. I can come back with a
Our guitar is unique.
little bit of grain in there. We definitely don't want it to be white right there, huh? So let's say it's got a dark wood for the fingerboard, and then the head of the guitar goes back to the same kind of wood that the body of the guitar is made out of. So just go back to that same brown that we used, paint it in, and do the same things to it. Add some streaks of red, some streaks of yellow, and some streaks of black. There. So let's add some streaks of red, some yeller, and tiny bit of black. It might have been too much, but it's all right. You know what? We need a little tiny black line right between the head and the neck. Right there. Let's see, let's put one. You know what? Actually, while I'm thinking about this neck, I'm going to go back for my red neck color, because this neck goes up over the body a little bit. Maybe about that much. And then we can kind of block that in with some shadow to make the neck look a little bit up off the guitar a little bit. So I'm going to put a little shadow here, a little here, a little here. Kind of helps lift it up a little bit, doesn't it?
I think so.
And let's go back and blend a little, but not too much here. That's good. All right, tuning keys. I'm gonna go, let's see. Let's go with our white for now. We can add a little bit of black, but let's assume that they're steel tuning keys. Now I'm using my tiny little brush here, and I'm just gonna, am I in the camera with this?
Sure.
Okay, and I just wanna use the very, very, very corner and barely press down, and putting my tuning keys. One there. 3 on each side. Don't worry exactly what they look like. I'm just making them little T shapes sticking out from the side of the guitar. There we go. And the guitar's about done. I'm now going to go back and fill in that sound hole all the way black. Ooh, that makes it look nicer, huh?
I think it looks cool.
All right. I'm going to go back and clean it up a little bit around the edges. There. Now it's ready for strings. One more thing, I got to put a bridge on. The bridge is what holds the strings on to the back of the guitar here. And the strings attach here. And then they go over this little bridge. Now I can put strings on. I don't have to put strings on it. I might just suggest strings, but if I try to do it now with these clumps of wet paint here, the strings are just going to blend into the guitar and you won't even be able to tell they're there.
That would not be fun.
I could put frets on. Tell you what, let's put a couple frets on there. Since the neck is pretty much dry, and
pretty much dry.
Well, the paint on my hand was not dry. So the neck is pretty much dry. And we want the frets to be dry before we put the strings on. So I'm going to use black to start the frets with, and then I might come back and put a highlight on them. Again, I'm going to be using the very, very corner of my brush and not pressing down very hard. Just kind of getting these lines. Your brush might be the right size that you can just lay them in like this. Now the frets get less spaced apart the closer they get to the guitar. So they get more spaced out the more we get to the head of the guitar. The more down the neck we go, the more spaced out the frets are. There we go. And now it's ready for strings. I'll make the sound hole a little bit bigger.
Muy pequeño.
Yes, that way we can hear it better. It's a louder guitar. All right, that's good enough. So we are ready now to go to our next step. So if you haven't finished your guitar, go ahead and keep moving along with us here, and you can go back and finish your guitar. But we are going to move on to, let's move on to the leaves. So let's go to the palette here for a second. Just as with the purple, I added a little bit of red to the blue. I'm going to do the same way to make some green, but I'm going to use yellow and then slowly add a little bit of blue at a time until I get it where I want it. So a little bit of blue. Start with a tiny little bit. And once I get kind of the green that I like, I'm really not going to mix too much more because I know it's going to continue to mix as I transfer paint to the canvas. And I don't want just a solid one tone of green. So back up to our canvas, and we're going to paint our leaves green and leave my stems white for now. I might go back with some yellow or some red on them. So I'm just painting the leaves green, making sure there's no white left on the leaves. Might go back and add some white highlights, but for now I just want to make them green. And I know nothing about trees and stuff, so I have no idea what kind of leaves these are, or if they even really exist. I think they must exist. because I just painted them. They at least exist in this world, right?
Exactly.
Our little flying guitar world. All right. Really, these go pretty quick, these leaves. They don't have to be perfect. Okay, now even when I dip in my green, I'm getting a little bit of yellow and a little bit of green. So I'm going to keep my leaves changing colors just slightly.
Hey, do you think if I bring in my own little mascot, like William, which is my snake,
Yes.
I could probably make him like a little hat or something. Like he can have a little beret, and maybe I can make him a tiny paintbrush.
Yeah. We need more mascots.
I'll have to find somewhere to set him where he's not in the way, but he's still visible. Because you gotta have your mascot. It's what brings spirit.
Yes. Wouldn't want you to be lonely without your mascot over there.
Yeah.
All right, so we got some leaves in. We have some leaves in. And as I mentioned before, I think I am going to put a little red in the stems. Because I'm kind of thinking of those vines. I don't know if you've seen them. They got kind of like a red...
I know what you're talking about, but you can't eat them because they're poisonous.
They have like berries on them, right?
I know what you're talking about. But don't eat them. They'll make you sick.
Yeah.
And that would not be fun.
Well, we're just going to put them in here. No one's going to eat ours anyway.
There's no one in the void to eat the berries.
All right. That gives it an interesting look, the red and the green. So I'm just going over my stems with the thin part of my paintbrush.
And then you'll knock your canvas over.
Nah. Almost there, but...
I'm waiting for you to do it one day. Right there
don't jinx me now.
Right there on camera, in front of everybody.
All right. Just a couple more lines and we'll be done with those. There we go. Maybe one right there. There, I don't have to get full coverage. That's good enough. Tell you what, let's put... Now this is really a painting. Like I said, this idea comes from another painting. The guitar was a little different, and Miss Susan, who a lot of you that may watch this video know, added some, I kind of had a fruit hanging down, and she turned the fruit into musical notes, and I thought that was a really good addition, so I'm going to use it. We do that a lot when we do art. We borrow our ideas from each other. And
so I need to make sure to tell Miss Susan to copyright her ideas.
No, we're okay. We all do that, really. When you go to a museum and you look at art, what's the point of going unless you're there to...
inspiration.
Yes.
Yeah. You might not be an artist, and it might not inspire you in that way, but it may inspire you in another way.
I'm trying to put my round little red berries just here and there. We don't want a pattern. We don't want them clumped too much. I don't know. Maybe you can clump them. Find a good way to do it. I'm just kind of suggesting them here and there. Let's make one just right on the end of this stem, hanging down. And then maybe each little berry has a little green leaf coming out at the top of it. See how that looks. Let's do one and we'll make up our mind. All right, so I'm going to get a little green, use the corner of my brush again. Let's put a little green leaf on either side. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to give the rest of my berries a little green leaf. Doesn't even, it's just a dot really. Just suggesting it. There we go. One more. Perfect. All right. What do you think, Madison?
I I think it looks good.
Moving right along here. You think my guitar's dry? Should I touch it?
I think we can risk it.
Almost. I can always come back to that. I can always come back to this.
Maybe we can work on our staff.
Yeah. Tell you what I'm going to do. That's a good idea. We'll go back to our staff. And I think it would look nice with a shadow beneath each white line. My white lines are, the way we laid them in, kind of made them a little jaggedy. This will clean it up a little bit. It'll be easy. Now that the lines are already there, I can go with a smoother stroke. And can we see the palette on the camera?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And so black with my tiny flat brush, and I'm wiping it very thin on the edge of the palette. And then might have to reload a few times as we go through this. Lift it up so I can get to it. I'm just going to go along each line with some black. I'm going to try to keep it beneath it. So, reload. Since my line is already here now, I can more easily just go along it without doing it in steps like I did the white. Still might have to brace my finger on the canvas or do it in segments. There, it's going to get thicker, the black, and then it starts to get thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. All right, so it starts out thin, gets thicker as it comes towards us, then it's going back away, it gets thinner. Starting to get some 3D-ness.
I think so.
Some dimension.
Definitely.
All right, so thin, 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 because it's way far away over here. So I'm barely pressing. As it gets closer to us, I press against the canvas a little bit harder, and the line gets a little bit thicker. Kind of cool how that works.
And it gets real chunky, and then it goes back down.
Back to thin. There. Kind of that black went in and out there, but that's okay. I like that. All right, so we've already got 3 of our 5 staff lines shadowed. That quick. All right, thick part. Getting thinner, getting thinner, getting thinner, getting thinner, getting thinner, getting thinner. All right, one more. This is great fun, by the way. I hope that you guys are painting along and having fun too.
And if you're by yourself painting, try and get yourself a little friend next time.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have a little friend.
Definitely. Thicker part, thicker part, thicker part. Gets thinner, 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 thinner. There we go. And I could come back with some white and clean up the white part a little bit. I think I'm going to do that here and there. I see a couple places that are bothering me. Right there. Pretty much right there for right now. But you can always go back and do some work on these. I'm not going to do too much.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
It's okay. It's fixable.
Yes.
Everything's fixable. Almost.
There. And I think my staff lines are good to go for now. I need to let them dry just a little bit before I put musical notes on them because I don't want to pull all that black, wet black paint and that white black paint into it. So I'm going to go back to my guitar now and add the strings. If you're not done with your guitar yet, don't add the strings until you're finally done with your guitar. This is the final step on the guitar. So if you are done with your guitar, you can think of these strings as starting at the base, kind of spread out, and they get more and more narrow as they go up to the head. So you don't have to do one long continuous string either. You don't even have to make sure it's got 6 of them on it. We just want to give some suggestions of some strings here. So, just painting.
Little lines here and there.
Yeah.
Maybe where like the light's catching it or something.
Right. And make sure they're going the right direction. And then when I get to the neck here, I'm going to give them lines here and there.
You look like you're about to give your stand a little hug.
I love my easel. All right, that's all I need for strings. Just suggesting it. This was a big, gigantic painting. I think it would be nice to go back and do some really, really nice details on the guitar. But for something so small, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Not going to see that much detail. I'm going to put a little bit. I'm going to pretend like we're looking up at the guitar a little bit, so I would see a little bit of the edges of it. So I'm going to give the guitar a little depth, just with the black shadow right there. So if I saw that part, I would also see this part. There we go. Something like that. Just a little bit. Again, I'm not going to get too carried away with detail here. There. See, it looks like a really thin guitar now. I better make this a little bit thicker. See, this would disappear right about there. You would quit seeing it so thick.
I think it's starting to look really good.
Thank you. All right. So let's see, are our staff lines dry enough? They are. So let's put some musical notes on this and just maybe a couple little other things and we'll be done with this painting. Again, I'm using the same way I did the berries. I'm going to do the musical notes. I want them to kind of match. So I'm going to use this same red. Make some tiny little, it's going to start as small as I can with the circles. Balls or whatever you want to call them. Let's put 2 here.
Are we in treble clef or bass clef?
I don't know. Since it's below the guitar, let's say it's, we could say bass, but guitar. Yeah. I'm not going to even attempt the clef sign with this paintbrush, but
Let's
whichever you
treble
want
clef.
it to be.
I can read treble clef better than
Well,
bass
I
clef,
can
so
read
let's
bass
do treble
clef better. And
Well,
so
then
I'm
we'll
putting
have to
in,
fight in the middle of the.
I'm putting a D in, and that would be every good B. That would be a B for treble, right?
Yes, sir.
But
Every
bass
good boy does
clef,
fine.
this is a D. So it's
Good boys do fine always.
Madison's B, my D. There. Now it's ultra confusing whether that's a 8th or a 16th, huh? Because I made the flag so thick. Let's go ahead and put a second flag to connect them. Then we know those are 16th notes, right? All right.
It's a very long 16th note.
Yeah. We just want it to
Not even
kind of
long,
look
it's
like a
not. He's
musical
tall.
note.
He's a tall note.
Let's see. And you know, there's a way that which side the flag is supposed to be on, and if it goes up or down, and
We're not going to get too technical
nah,
today.
we just want it to look like musical notes. This one, let's do one of those that have the part that comes down, and then a little
Little
flag.
flag.
There we go. Let's see. Over here,
I would say add in a whole note, but those aren't as fun.
we
They're just
could
little-
add in a rest.
Ooh.
Something like that, right?
Looks good to me.
So do your favorite music notes. Let's do the one. Let's do a half note. It's hollow inside. And there. And maybe one of these notes. Get ready, Madison. All right, high note. Can you sing a high note?
I can. I don't know if you want to hear me sing a high note.
This note's our high note. It
I
went
can reach a high C.
all the way off the staff. Let's hear it. Hit your high C. Oh boy.
I'm in choir. I'm a soprano.
I would never be able to get that high.
That wasn't my high C, but I'm not gonna like shatter eardrums.
Yeah, let's not do that. That was impressive though. There, that one escaped, and that's our high C. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with this painting. What do you think, Madison?
I think it looks great.
And it could use a couple more notes here and there, but I'm going to leave that up to you whether you put it in yours or not. I hope you like this. I do want to put my signature on.
Always got to sign your work.
Yes.
Otherwise, anybody can steal it.
You know, one thing about signing your work is make sure you don't get too close to the edge, because if you put it in a frame or have any sort of matting on it, your signature is not going to show up. Make sure I get it a little off the edge, not too big, not too small. And there we go. All right, so that will conclude our Saturday painting. We'll be back definitely Wednesday at 3:30 to paint another painting. So thank you, Madison. Did an awesome job.
All right.
You want to say goodbye?
Bye, everybody.
All right, we'll see you
all next time.
All right, bye.